Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Stephen Owatarski, and I get this question asked quite often. What is the difference between a photographer and a photo artist? You ready to get this started? Let's do it! Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you could do me a great favor, and that is please like this video. If you would please also subscribe and hit that notification bell. And that way you'll get notified for every time I upload a new video on this channel. Now let's talk about the difference between a photographer and a photo artist. And I'm going to give you some examples of this, but first of all, let's talk about what is a photographer. And a photographer typically follows certain rules. And you were actually taught this if you went to photography school, like some people did. They actually went to college and they majored in photography. You might belong to a camera club, and they just tend to put you in this box with rules that you have to follow. And that's typically what a photographer does. They're worried about proper exposure when they create their imagery. They always are fighting for tack sharp images. And that is always a big deal, talking about, oh, it's a little bit soft, but it should be tack sharp. High resolution. I don't know why people are so infatuated with that. In fact, I'm going to make that a topic in the near future about the BS about high resolution. And probably will tick off a lot of people, but, get over it. There are exceptions, and that's if you're a commercial photographer. But to my opinion, high resolution is just a bunch of BS. Rules of thirds and other type of rules that we typically follow as a photographer. Okay, let's talk about what a photo artist is. And I modified this definition a bit because a good friend of mine I've got to know over the years, if you ever heard of Joel Grimes. And Joel Grimes, his entire business, he is a commercial photographer, by the way, and portrait photographer. Did a lot of work overseas, major corporations, well over, it was close to about 30 years full-time doing nothing but photography. He's now in his 60s, and I think 90% of his energy now is all dedicated to guest speaking and training. But I appreciate a guy that for that period of time made a full-time income doing nothing but photography. Training came later in his life where he makes his money. But anyhow, he said everything changed when he called himself an artist and no longer called himself a photographer. And that was ruffling a lot of feathers years ago. And so when he saw work that I was doing, and he was encouraging me to keep pressing myself and just modify it based on my needs and my look. And he said, please do not call yourself a photographer. You are an artist. So I thought about that for a moment, and I came up with this. A photo artist is a person who uses a camera and software to create their art and vision. And I'll show examples of this a little bit later, but I thought that was a cool definition of what a photo artist is. And so a photo artist does not follow rules. I really need to correct that. And by the way, if you graduated from a school as a photographer, you belong to a camera club, there's nothing wrong with being part of that. I'm not saying that's negative. It's just that your mindset is different than a photo artist. That's what I'm trying to explain between the two. And so as an artist, we actually follow one rule. So that's misleading. And the rule that we follow is there are no rules. We do that all the time. We don't care about proper exposure. And again, I'll give you examples of this. We don't care about tack sharp images. Again, I'll give you an example of this. We don't care about high resolution. I mean, I used to think back, and again, to me, this could be a topic by itself. I shot weddings back in 2005, 2006, and going into 2007 with an 8 megapixel camera. 8 megapixel. And the highest ISO I could go was 1600, not 16,000, 1600. 100. And yet I was able to print albums and nobody knew. It was high quality. Again, I don't know why everybody's obsessed with this high resolution stuff, except, I mean, there are exceptions, and we'll talk about that at a future video. Don't care about rules of thirds. Don't care. As a photo artist, we just do what we like to do. We don't care what other people think. And we just let our audience find us. And then we don't care about what other people think. So just mention that a little bit, but we focus on what we want to do, refine our skills on what we want to do. We don't care what anybody thinks. I mean, there's artists back from like Norman Rockwell. He didn't care what people thought about his work, and yet he had people that just chastised the type of work that he was doing. He had Andy Warhol, same thing. He was chastised. How about, I was just trying to think of somebody else. Picasso. I mean, they thought he was crazy. And Picasso was a typical painter, but he did a 180. And he was bashed by critics and stuff. He didn't care. He did what he loved to do. How about Salvador Dali? I mean, I should do a video just on this and their attitude, what I learned about how they went for what they loved to do, and they let their audience find them. And they were very, very, again, successful. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples of a photographer. And that's me. This is what I've done. In fact, some of this was from last year. High school seniors on the left. In the middle was a model shoot. You got fashion on the far right. That's what a typical photographer would do. Okay, as a photo artist, though, totally different. And this is some example of Joel Grimes. First example. Number one, dead center. Not, some people look at that and say, well, geez, that's not properly exposed, sort of on the dark side. And Joel would say, well, thank you. That's what he wanted. He wanted to be very moody and gritty. And that was the look that he went for. And that's what he wants to do. In fact, a lot of his images are like that. How about this? Whoa, way overexposed. In fact, he told me personally when he showed me this. Now, to me and him, this is a piece of artwork. He said, I won't mention the major university from Arizona, the state of Arizona. When he went to school, if he had submitted that image, he would have failed that class or got a failing grade on that because way overexposed. But that's his look on doing stuff overexposed like that. It's a piece of artwork. He loves doing this stuff. And he has an audience that follows that. That's the key. So again, a photographer would not look at, would look at that and say, whoa, that's way overexposed. Photo artist, totally, totally different. How about this one? These are well-known people. Nick Knight. I think Nick Knight is still alive for V Magazine. Gee, that image on the left, that's tack sharp, isn't it? But yet it was published. How about Peter Lindbergh? Did you ever hear about him? Fashion photographer. Passed away, I believe, I can't remember, late 80s or the 90s. But anyhow, well-known fashion photographer, and that doesn't look too tack sharp to me. How about Richard Avedon and some of his work, if you look at it? Doesn't show up too well on the video, but this is a very soft image and a little bit of blur in that. And again, that would be criticized in a camera club. If that was submitted as an image, they would say, well, it's a little bit underexposed and it's a little bit soft, a little bit blurry on that. Could have done better. Well, again, these are examples of photo artists, even though technically they were named photographers during their time. This is one of my mentors right now, Peter Coulson from Australia. I talk to him about once a month, good mentor of mine. He cannot stand sharpening. He does not like digital cameras. He likes analog. Problem is he has to shoot digital. So his work has to have what he calls an analog look to it in black and white. He cannot stand tack sharp images. Tack sharp lenses on his camera. He will buy vintage lenses adapted to his Hasselblad and try to make it soft. If he can't with a lens, he will purposely manually focus on the subject matter and defocus before he hits the shutter. He does not want it sharpened. When he brings it into Photoshop or any editing software, he always will not use sharpening at all in his imagery. Now, he could be criticized for that, but he was named Photographer of the Year in Australia years ago, and he does what he does. He has a huge following. And again, big fashion and portrait photographer. Love his work, but a lot of people don't. And that's okay. He doesn't care. He does what he loves to do, and his audience will find him. If we take a look at another artist, Brooke Shaden, Brooke does not know that much about shooting with cameras, just basic stuff. She says, I'm not a photographer. I use a camera to create my artwork. And I've actually gone to different workshops with that she put on. I think it was about 4 of them, became good friends with her mother. And she's just incredible. Everything she does is square. She does not like to use pure white in any of her artwork. It's always off-white. And she never uses pure black. It's a dark gray. And she's in, again, 4 different galleries. One is in Europe, I believe, and one's in Canada. Don't hold me to that. But a little bit on the dark side. But again, whether you like her work or not, she has a huge international following, and she just focuses on what she loves to do, period. She doesn't care about what other people think on that. This is an example of me when I started moving toward being a photo artist. I do a lot of kids. I've done this for, this style that you see on the left side and right side, I've done that style for over 6 years. And I think I'm going to do a dedicated video to how I came up with that style. But this is not photography. I'm a photo artist. I'm taking a picture of them, cutting them out, and in Photoshop, creating my art in Vision. In the middle there, the high school senior was sitting on a chair, and that is a piece of artwork I put together in Photoshop. That went, I can't say viral, but when you have a high school kid who gets their graduation pictures taken, and then you do something like that because he's a gamer, and he shows his friends that image. He had a 13 by 19 print, and then I gave him a low res. It's on his phone. He's advertising for me. He doesn't even know it. And I'm getting calls from mothers saying, you did this guy, my son, Nicholas, my friend is friends with Nicholas, and he saw what you did with his gaming photo, and blah, 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 blah. We need you to do my son's graduation photos. So this is being again, photo artist, totally different than a photographer. So as a photo artist, we're always thinking out of the box. And I'm telling you, literally thinking out of the box right there. That's me when I got a little bit hokey one evening, did that shot right there. But anyhow, can't wait to share more information with you on some future videos. Please remember to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And I hope to see you in my next video. Till then, see ya.